We've moved things in the agenda just a little bit, and we have the pleasure of listening to Senator Jaffrey provide us with a keynote. Now, to introduce the Senator, I'd like to introduce to you, to those of you who don't know, our President, Dr. Michelle Tarko. No one is a bigger supporter of all the wonderful work that obviously happens in this building and throughout justice and public safety in general, and in support of the very unique role that women play within those professions. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Tarko.
Thank you, Barb, and good morning. On behalf of the Institute, I want to welcome you to International Women's Day here at the Justice Institute. I'm so proud of the work that we've been able to achieve, led by Jennifer and others, in bringing us together today. When I think about Press for Progress, and I mean, it really hit me this morning sitting here listening to the speakers tell their stories. I was reminded on a personal note of two women who inspired me, and that would be growing up in a matriarch family. Pardon me. And that would be my mother and my grandmother. My mother was a single mother, 6 children. I'm the last of 6 within 8 years. Heritage is Métis, Cree Nation, and French. And I'm really getting nervous talking about both of them as they have both passed on. But they give me inspiration every day to do the work that we do. And to be a part of this today is really remarkable. When I think about Press for Progress here at the Justice Institute, I've been with the Institute since 2009. I've been in this role I'm in my 6th year. And when I think about the governance of the organization, you heard from Dr. Tina Dion this morning that with the Board of Governors right now, we have, of 12 governors, we have 5 members who are women. And so we've seen a shift from 1 out of 12 to 5 out of 12 in the last 6 years or so, which really excites me at the board table. When I think about our leadership team, our executive committee is made up of 4 individuals, 2 vice presidents and 1 associate vice president. And both vice presidents are women, Colleen Vaughn, who couldn't be here today, and Keiko Tachikuchi, who is our VP Finance and Operations, who is in the building, but I don't know if she's sitting here today. So to think that our 2 senior vice presidents are women is a big deal to me, and I think to the organization as a whole. When I think about our senior leadership team, Senior Management Council, we have a council of 12 directors and deans. Of the 12, 50% are women. And when I think of our dean structure, we have 4 deans. You've met Barb today. 2 of our 4 deans are women. So really excited to say to you today, we continue to press for progress around participation at the leadership roles throughout the organization, and happy to see that dial shifting in the last 6 to 7 years. So with that, it's my honor to introduce Senator Mobina Jaffer. Senator Jaffer served as Canada's Special Envoy for Peace in Sudan from 2002 to 2006. From 2002 to 2005, she chaired the Canadian Committee on Women, Peace and Security. Senator Jaffer is often invited to speak at international conferences on security issues and the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, which urges all actors to increase the participation of women and incorporating gender perspectives in all United Nations peace and security efforts, and calls on parties to conflict to take special measures to protect women and girls from gender-based violence, particularly rape and other forms of sexual abuse in situations of armed conflict. As a grandmother, women's rights and children's rights are central to Senator Jaffrey's advocacy. She advised me this morning that one of the first courses she did at the Justice Institute 40 years ago was in writing. And I shared with the Senator that this year we're turning 40 in April. So she was one of our first students, I imagine. She lives in North Vancouver, and on behalf of the Institute, thank you so much for accepting this honor.
Thank you very much, President, for staying here with us. We know how busy you are, and participating. It shows to us all your true commitment to this issue. And so I thank you, and I thank you for your remarks. And I thank all of you for being here later in the morning. There are always 101 things to do, and So it's always easy to rush away, and so I appreciate you still staying here. I have this first picture. It's a picture I keep at my bedside, and I'll tell you why. Every young girl has a dream. Mine was to be part of first responders, be part of the Canadian Armed Forces. And I'm much older than all of you, and that was not something that existed in my era. So my father looked at me and said, "What? No, you're not going to the Canadian." And I was raised in Uganda, where the armed forces had a few other challenges. So I can see why he said no, but I still am disappointed. And so as Vice Chair of Defense, every time I get an opportunity to go to the armed forces, they give us uniforms. I wear them proudly, and so I'm showing. So I'm living my dream, and I'm showing off today. So I have made out little cards, and I'm not going to push them on you, but if you want, I also have my address at the back, so please feel free to take one. But I said to Jennifer when she asked me to come and speak, I said to Jennifer, I don't know what I can share with all of you, but I want to learn from you. I've been defense vice chair for a few years, and I can tell you that I get put on and I get put off, and that's politics, and it took me 17 years to get on that committee, and then roughly taken out. I won't go into that politics today, but just to say that every time they tell me, okay, are you ready to go back again, instead of pouting and saying, no, you took me off, I say, no, yes, I am. And I go on it because I truly believe that we need to have more women in the first responders. And I believe that because I've seen it firsthand. And I want to say to you, first of all, in my 6 rules, I have the rule of gratitude, and I have tremendous gratitude to even stand here today. You know, I'll start crying. I came here 40 years ago to learn how to write English at this institute, and I used to live in Richmond. And it was so hard for me at that time to come here, but that's the only place I could find that met my needs, and it was in the evening and in the weekends, especially weekends, which was great. And then since then, I've done many courses here, so it was just such a privilege to come back here today. And so I do this work for young girls, not just in our country, but all over the world. And I want to share this picture with you because I truly feel that when those young girls become equal, then we all become equal, because we're a small world. If some of us are not equal, and Lauren spoke about that so well, then it sort of is not, our fabric is not so strong. But I wanted to start off today, and these are not my figures, they're the Library of Parliament of Canada, and if anybody wants to challenge them, write to them. But I have studied them really hard last night because I'm going to use them in my committee meetings forever and ever. But I wanted to say that in 2016, women accounted for 21% of all sworn officers in Canada. Women continue to be increasingly represented in higher ranks of police services. They represented 13% of senior officers in 2016, the highest proportion ever recorded. And when the police force comes in front of us, they always say, we're doing really well. And I'll tell you why they're doing really well. This is what firefighters' leadership looks like. And so that's why I'm really happy you are here. You are inspiring us. And all the words today that you said, and all the work you are doing, I'm so inspired. I'm going to really come and bug you, because you are already making that 4% go bigger. And so 4% is lower than every other emergency service, including law enforcement, paramedic, and military. So firefighters have a lot of work to do. We also know firefighters and others have some other challenges, and that is why I want to be part of Vice Chair of Defense, because we need to change that figure. 15% in the armed forces, and 15% is committed to increase the number to 25% by 2026. And to be very, very honest with you, that's too long. There's no reason. There are enough women in all 3 services, and I don't know why it'll take till 2026. And I get tired of saying, well, we need them to not just give it to them. They have to know this, they have to know that. And I always say to people who tell me that is, until you put us there and teach us, we're not going to learn. And so I want to give you this example. Is when I was a young lawyer, I'm the first South Asian woman lawyer in Canada, and the company I worked for would give me all the bad files. And that's sort of not because I was a woman, or that's what people do to young lawyers. So I get that. But I felt I got the worst files. And so I would go to my partners. I had more guts than sense at that time. And I go to my partners, not my partners, but the law partners, and say, I'm first Indian, I go to court, I have these stupid files, they'll think I'm stupid, I'm not doing this anymore. And nobody ever said that to them. So they looked at me, but my very senior partner, Mr. Dome, thought, this girl has more guts than, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's almost going to be fired just now. And I was a refugee. I did need my job. It was the only job my family had between 20 of us. So I needed the job. But it ended up that he mentored me, and it ended up I got less. I, of course, still got some dog files, but it meant that I didn't every day go to court with a file that was a loser. Imagine on what happens in your psyche. And so I always say to when the Chief Vance comes to, defense staff comes in front, I say, yeah, but Chief, if you don't give them the opportunity, they will never get there. So don't give me that. What are you doing? And so we all have to ask those questions. And this is again, I'm showing off my different roles. I just had to be a little bit saying I could have been that too. But one of the things that has come up is culture. And whenever I go to the forces, at that time we were going to Afghanistan and we were talking about how to relate to women, and I did some cultural training. And I want to talk to you very quickly about culture. Everywhere I go, I travel a lot. I'm very privileged. I get to travel to many places. And even in my own faith, I'm a Muslim woman, people say, well, our culture, that's our culture. And I'm tired of that. So I want to I want to tell you something about culture, is that my grandparents left India and went to Africa 100 years ago, and they took a bag full of culture. They took culture about women not being equal, women getting dowries, and women cooking and not working outside the house, all that culture they took, okay? When they arrived in Africa 100 years ago, it already was stale. The culture was already stale. And then when we became refugees, the only bag we took, because it was an imaginary bag, was our culture. So when we came here to Canada, the same thing, women not working out of the home, women are submissive, blah, blah, blah. And I went to India. I went to India in 1993, and I just had a little daughter, then 8 years old, and I was collecting her dowry and all that stuff, and I had a bag aside. We all fall into the same cultural issues, right? And my Indian friends, my women activists said, why are you doing that for? And I said, well, it's our culture. I have to give her a dowry. And they said, we don't do that anymore. What are you doing? And the lesson I learned from that was that culture does not stay stale. If somebody came here 50 years ago, they would have said, it's our culture that women don't go into the armed forces, they are not firefighters, they don't go into police force. Nobody would say that now, or wouldn't dare to say that if they want to survive. But they would have 50 years ago, right? And so I say to you, when people say it's our culture, to ask them, what do you mean by culture? Now, is it still being practiced in the country of origin? And tell me, why is it? And is it abusive towards women? So please don't just accept culture. Ask the questions. Why are you talking about culture? This was I also went into the Air Force, so I want you to know that. But my heart is always with the armed forces. But I want to say something to you. I want to be very respectful and say to you, it's you, the first responders, are the only people in our country that truly sacrifice. You put your life in jeopardy every day. And I, as a politician, want to thank you for this. And that's why it was a real honor for me to come. I've been to many cemeteries around the world of Canadian soldiers and Air Force and police officers being buried. And I want to tell you that you truly do the greatest service. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. So I want to thank you for what you do. And I want to say to you that please never give up. Build a group around you. Build somebody around you. And share with other women. Because the lake is so big. If we share, we empower each other. And I grew up when people said, oh, you can't do this, it's not possible. When I came here, they said, there's no South Asian that's a woman lawyer, you can't do it. Then if people tell me can't, then I must. And if people say it's impossible, then I make it possible. And so you also, I'm sure people tell you that, but we don't take a cant. And I want to say to you, I meet women soldiers of all kinds. And this is a woman that I still stay in touch with. She has now 3 children, but for her first child, she was a rebel combatant. And I was just thinking that women don't make exceptions, like I'm pregnant, I can't fight. If they believe in what they want to do, and this is the woman that when we become a greater part of the armed forces or the first responders or police force, we can reach out and support other women around the world. And I'll tell you why that is important. As the envoy, it's a long story, but I'll try and make it very short. As the envoy, I was asked to go to Darfur in a very, very poor part where there were refugees. When I arrived there, my idea of going to a refugee camp is there's tents properly, blue tents, because the United Nations, everything is on order, there's food being cooked. That was my imagination. Where I got there, there was no tents. There was just a few plastic coverings for people, and there was no food. The food had not yet arrived. And yet, there was a school. There was a woman member in charge from the Canadian Armed Forces of that camp. I looked at her and I said, "How are you managing? You have nothing." She said, "Yes, I have nothing." But she set up a school. And when I got off the plane, the mothers ran towards me, and I was sure they were going to say, "What have you come? Have you brought us food? What have you done?" Instead, they hugged me and said, "You go back and tell Canadian women, we need more of them." Because when this woman set up the school, even though we have nothing to eat, no shelter, she gave hope to our children. So when people say, why do we need women? Why are we saying that men do not do a good job? I'm not saying that. We need both, men and women. But we bring different abilities to the table. I was part of the peace process, and I brought 17 women. Another day I'll talk about that, to the peace process. And the peace process changed, because before men were talking about positioning and different things, and then suddenly the women were saying, when they were talking about where the river, which part side should have the river, one woman got up and said, "What are you talking about? This river has been dried up many years ago. When I was little, I used to go and bring water from this river. It's dried up. Forget about it. Move on." Then there was food routes to talk about. And another woman got up and said, "Forget this route. We cannot deal with it. It's completely mined." What I'm saying is the women are the eyes and ears of the community. They know what's happening. We know what's happening in our community. And men bring other strengths. And together, we can bring sustainable peace. This is why I truly believe in bringing women's leadership, is because when women are sitting at the table, it makes a difference. And after hearing everybody speak this morning, I kept thinking, my presentation is going to be all over the place, because I'm bringing something from here, something from there. They'll think, has she not written a presentation down? Why is it all higgledy-piggledy? Trust me, I thought a lot about my presentation. But the reason I have so many different things is because as a parliamentarian, I work on different things, and I'm so greedy, I want to share everything with you. I want to share everything with you. And the one thing I want to share, which I have a few more years left before they throw me out of the Senate, and the one thing I want to work on is for your safety. We just did a report, the Defense Committee just did a report, and we talked about, and I don't want to really read about it, but I say to people is, we all as young people, young girls, wanted to do, become in charge of correctional institutions, be senior police chief, be the defense chief of the army. We all had dreams, and we worked hard. And some of those things, some of those challenges were very hard for us because we are different. Let's accept that we are different. And every month we have some challenges. So we do have different challenges, but we worked hard. And when we went for that ceremony, and when we achieved, when we became the policeman, woman, when we became the army officer, we absolutely felt we had achieved something. And then we go into a workplace, and that workplace destroys us. There is no safety at work. And I tell my colleagues, when you use a power relationship and you think these women are like candy, you can choose which candy you want to suck today. Sorry, I say it that way, so I'm going to. You destroy that woman, that woman's family, but most importantly, you destroy their dreams. And so I stand in front of you and say to you, each and every one of you, I will only be as effective in this job that I have if you give me your input. If you reach out to me and tell me, look, this is happening, this is what's happening, I won't use your name, this is what's happening, what can you do? One of the things that your parliamentarians have is access. We can ask anybody anything, from the Prime Minister to the Army Commissioner, the Chief of Police, I'm getting the names wrong, Chief of Police, the Defense Chief, the Chief of Defense Staff, Mr. Vance, always says to me, oh, Mobina, you always have something difficult, because he then has to go and do homework. But I can only ask them the questions if you give them to me. So let's build a relationship. Let's find work so that when our daughters come to take the jobs that you have, they will truly have a safe working place. They will not have to worry about being harassed. All they have to worry about is to do their job properly and how they can obtain higher opportunities. And many people say to me that why is it so important to have women in the armed forces? I get on another place, I'm a tough woman's right, of course you can see I am. And so people say, if you are such a strong women's right person, why do you want women in the army? You're sending women to be killed. And I say to them, it's not my choice. If a young woman decides to be a first responder, a police officer, or in the rescue, work in the correctionals, work in the armed forces, it is my job to keep them safe. So today I stand in front of you and say to you, I want to work with you. I will only be as good a senator as you give me the information. So please work with me. I will stand outside when this is over and give you a card. Please reach out to me so we can work together. And why do we need to work together? Because we want to do this to strengthen our country. I talk about every day I try to 1% improve myself. If you help me, every day I will 1% improve the lives of women as first responders. I need your help. And I have at the end, because we're going to have answers, questions and answers, I have at the end a video I want to show you. But I say to the men with whom I work, and I'm very pleased to tell you, we are now, out of 105, we are 46 women in the Senate, so we're doing quite well. But I say to people is that if there's no harmony in society, that's when we have trouble. When a young woman who has lived her dream and achieved everything she can, and then she has to leave her job because of sexual harassment, there is really a fracture in our society. We cannot afford that. We are a small country. And so what does harmony mean? So think about a piano. When I was young, my mom wanted me to be a pianist, and my father, a politician. And you can see what I am, a politician. My mom didn't succeed. But she'd always tell me, play on the white keys, play on the black keys. Days I didn't want to play on the piano, and I wanted her to get angry at me, or annoy her. Better still, angry I didn't want. I would just play on the black keys. Try. It's not good harmony. Some days I would play just on the white keys. Try. It's not good harmony. To have harmony in our society, on this International Women's Day, we have to have both men and women treated equally. Why I love our Canadian Armed Forces is when I travel with them in the most remote parts, unfortunately there are not many women that travel with me. In the daytime, they say that our armed forces work, do their job, and in the evening they build orphanages. That's why we need more Canadians out around the world to show how Canadians look after each other. I want to again show to you that the percentages: police officers 21 in leadership, firefighters 4, 15% in the armed forces. And I want to share this video. I want to finish with this, and then I hope you will ask me some really tough questions. So today's hashtag Press for Progress, today's theme Press for Progress is, yes, we as women have made a lot of progress, but we still have a long way to go. And together, our daughters will see a different Canada, and I want to work with you. Thank you very much.